All right, guys, this is your third video on your writing task for your country report. And today we're going to talk about revisions. Revising and editing is probably the part that you hate the most, but in my opinion, is probably the most important because it's just looking at your writing with an extra eye that's really zoomed into one particular thing. Before I start showing you what it is that I want you to revise, I want to let you know that this is not something that that is easy for me to sort of track what your revisions are, but here's what I can tell. When I go to look at your final copy when you eventually turn it in, I can ask myself, man, this person really didn't pay attention to this, or definitely didn't do any revising and editing here. So you have to go in here with a fresh new perspective, and when I tell you to read this 3 times today, I really, really do mean that. Take the time to reread your entire 5 paragraphs 3 separate times today. So that was a little bit of a spoiler alert. You are going to be rereading your 5 paragraph essay 3 different times today, and you're going to focus on something different every single time. It's like having a lens to look for one thing. So like if you have 3D glasses on, you know, they've got the blue and the red, and they're meant to be sort of looked through one at a time. So you are really truly just paying attention to one part of your story at each time you read through it. So the first one wants to talk to you about order. So let me tell you what I mean by that. As you reread your story, I want you to ask yourself about your order of information. Does it make sense? If not, how could you change it? I don't have one to show you today. I just want to talk you through this process. So if I was going to be editing for order today, while I read, let's say that I started talking about kangaroos, and then I started talking about wombats, and then I went back to kangaroos, and then I went over to koalas, and then I came back to wombats. You can see that although those are all mammals and they're all important to my story or my essay, they don't flow together. I need to have all information about kangaroos together. I need to have all information about wombats together. So that might be one piece of advice. You might want to pause the video when I'm done mentioning this part and go reread it one time to just simply check for the order. Do I have all of my facts in order, all lumped together? That would be the first one. Your second read for the day is actually going to be about interest. So let me tell you what that means. You are going to ask yourself what you could do to really better capture your reader's interest. Okay? That basically means, are there any parts that are boring? So maybe you're talking a whole awful lot about one particular animal and you're going into a ton of detail. Maybe it's too much. Maybe you need to go back and delete some of that and only tell us the stuff that's the most interesting without losing the entire meaning of your essay. So you really want to make sure when you read for interest, just think about your reader. Don't think about you. Think about your reader. What are they going to find interesting? What's going to be kind of boring? Or maybe what's going to have too much detail and you need to figure out how to dial it back a bit. This is something that I had to do big time. I could tell that I was writing way too much about the Aboriginal people when James Cook came over. So when I was revising mine, I took a lot of that information out because it was just kind of boring. I didn't need all of that detail. So this might be a good opportunity for you to pause and go and reread your story, and this time ask yourself, are there any sections that might be a little bit boring, and what could I do to change them? Okay? The third thing that you're going to do today is you're going to read it one final time, and this time you're going to talk about completeness. So this says, what more do I need to add so the report gives enough information about the country? That could also basically just mean, do I feel like something's missing? So let's say, for example, you're talking about schools in Australia and how kids can leave school at 16 or that they wear uniforms, like all these different things. But let's say maybe you just feel like you haven't actually talked enough about elementary school because that's the grade levels that you're in right now. Maybe I need to go back and read a little bit more about Australia and do a tiny little bit more research on just one particular thing. Even if I just added one sentence to my story to make it sound more complete, that would make a whole world of difference. So you're really just asking yourself, do I feel like something is missing? Okay? So again, that's 3 reads to your story today. 1 checking on order, 1 checking on interest, 1 checking on completeness, And that will be it. I don't even have another page. These are just the 3 that you're going to do. You can always ask for help, but tomorrow our lesson is on getting feedback from a family member of some kind. So you might want to wait to ask them for feedback tomorrow.